However, the disadvantages of the pocket watch were also obvious. This was a pocket watch that would actively seek out probabilities. An infinite non-probability referred to infinite non-probability. For example, the probability of Tang Mo killing Grandmother Wolf was 1/1421341 while the probability of Grandmother Wolf eating Tang Mo was 1421340/1421341. No matter from what point of view, Tang Mo was dead. The probability was very close to zero, meaning he couldn't beat Grandmother Wolf and could only be eaten by her. However, if the infinite non-probability watch activated at this time, it would directly delete the probability and only consider the event itself. Was there a chance for Tang Mo to kill Grandmother Wolf? Yes. Then the probability was deleted. Non-probability, there was no probability it would happen in this world. The probability that Tang Mo could kill Grandmother Wolf was 1/1421341. After the infinite non-probability watch was used, this event would become Tang Mo could kill the wolf grandmother. There was no probability, only the event itself. This prop was rarer than the turkey egg because in theory, it could completely alter any event from the law of causality. But its drawbacks were just as bad as its function. The pocket watch searched for probability and there was only a 50% chance of successfully activating. Let's say Tang Mo used the pocket watch when fighting Grandmother Wolf. The probability that he would kill Grandmother Wolf might not necessarily be detected by the pocket watch, which meant he couldn't use the pocket watch at all. Even if it was detected, there was only a 50% of successfully triggering it. Tang Mo touched his face. He is white and had been called a pretty boy, but his luck was very ordinary. After receiving Mario's hat, he had hit the wall for 5 months and hadn't received any useful props. Tang Mo couldn't help thinking that if he used the pocket watch, wouldn't it be counterproductive and he might end up being killed by the pocket watch? Tang Mo decided not to use this pocket watch unless it was absolutely necessary. He would slowly become familiar with the way that the pocket watch was used. Maybe he could discover better conditions to use it. The more that a prop went against the heavens, the greater the restrictions. Otherwise, the game would lose balance. The fact that the use of the infinite non-probability pocket watch was so limited showed how terrifying it could be. Tang Mo checked the 2 rewards he got and then pulled out his abilities book. He opened the book and turned to the last page. After seeing the text that appeared, Tang Mo's expression became strange. It was unknown what he was feeling in his heart. Ability, beauty in the eyes of the beholder owner, Li Psyche, stowaway, type, special type function, use this ability on specific targets to make yourself look more handsome/beautiful in the eyes of the other person. The upper limit of the beauty value is related to the imagination of the target and can become infinitely close to the favorite appearance of the target. Level, 2 restrictions, use up to 3 times a day. The maximum usage time is 10 seconds, subject to the willpower of the user. The stronger the user's willpower, the shorter the duration of the ability. The shortest time possible is 1 second. Note, wake up, is there in target? Tang Mo version usage instructions, no additional restrictions. This garbage ability, I don't even need to give restrictions. This was the first ability Tang Mo received that didn't have additional restrictions. Tang Mo had long guessed about this ability but he hadn't expected to actually obtain it. The real name of the Black Rabbit in the Truth Clock game was Li Psyche, a stowaway. After Tang Mo won the Truth Clock game, Li Psyche had a chance to win. As long as he killed Tang Mo and became the last person standing on the clock, he could win. Unfortunately, his strength was far worse than Tang Mo and was at the level of Fu Wen's Hung. However, his ability was very strange. Tang Mo almost caught him 2 or 3 times but this ability allowed him to flee. It was because every time Tang Mo was about to catch Li Psyche, he suddenly saw a handsome face. This face still resembled Li Psyche but it was only 30%. The remaining 70% all received extra points. This face was definitely at a superstar level in the entertainment industry. Li Psyche was a very plain-looking person. He wasn't ugly but he absolutely wasn't outstanding. Once such a handsome face suddenly appeared, Tang Mo couldn't say that his heart thumped because this face conformed to his aesthetics. He was shocked and allowed Li Psyche to escape several times. This ability was really a bit shameful. It wasn't the shame that came from shouting a spell but the ability could be surprisingly successful when fighting someone. It was just that if the enemy wasn't killed and they met again later, it would be a bit awkward. Tang Mo thought that he wouldn't receive this ability because he didn't personally kill Li Psyche. Since he obtained it, he would use it reasonably. He put away the abilities book and his props. Tang Mo lay on a model bed in the furniture store and closed his eyes. 5 hours later, the sky gradually brightened. The temperature had already warmed up and golden sunlight was s.h.i+ning on the road. A black figure quickly shot out from the back door of the household goods store. Tang Mo carried his bag and moved very quickly. Before entering the attack tower game, Fu Wenduo had marked the location of his home on a map of Beijing. Tang Mo glanced at it while vigilantly running through Beijing. It was after dawn and there were players out looking for food and water. Tang Mo and a middle-aged woman unexpectedly met on the street, both of them staring cautiously at each other. Tang Mo looked at the canned beef and mineral water in the woman's hand. He raised an eyebrow as he suddenly recalled that he hadn't eaten meat for a long time. The woman discovered Tang Mo staring at her cans and glared fiercely at him. Tang Mo glanced lightly at her and turned away. Beijing had more players surviving than Nanjing and far more than the non-central city of Handan. Tang Mo met 3 more people along the way. He didn't want to meet local players in this unfamiliar city and constantly avoided them. It was 2 p.m. by the time he found Fu Wenduo's house. It was a high-security Chinese-style building. The environment was quiet and there were some vegetables planted in the yard. Tang Mo pushed open the door. There was no sound, as if no one was present. Tang Mo double-checked the map to make sure he wasn't in the wrong place. He was about to take out the turkey egg and ask Fu Wenduo for his position when a male voice came from behind him. Were you looking for a long time? Tang Mo reflexively tensed and looked warily behind him. He discovered that the other person was Fu Wenduo and slowly relaxed. He looked down and saw that Fu Wenduo was holding something. What's that? At this time, Xiao Fu also arrived with a large bag of things. He saw Tang Mo and was surprised. Brother Tang, have you arrived? Fu Wenduo stated, enter the house first. They entered the house and Fu Wenduo took out a barbecue rack from the warehouse. He made a fire out of firewood and Xiao Fu untied the plastic bag to reveal the frozen meat and vegetables inside. Tang Mo looked at the brother's movements with surprise and a bit of confusion. Fu Wenduo glanced at him and said, go help Xiao Sheng process the ingredients. Tang Mo nodded and cut the meat and vegetables along with Fu Wen's hung. This scene was too magical. Tang Mo never thought that after the earth went online, he could actually be eating barbecue so leisurely. This is frozen meat from the cellar. The temperature in Beijing is low and the frozen meat is not bad. But once summer pas.ses, there should be no more meat on earth. Fu Wenduo held one side of the barbecue rack and explained, we should eat a lot now since we might never eat meat again. Fu Wen's hung asked, is human flesh counted? Fu Wenduo stared coldly at his brother. Your flesh. Xiao Fu's neck shrank back and he didn't dare speak again. Tang Mo asked, have you roasted meat before? Fu Wenduo's skill in handling the barbecue was excellent. Fu Wenduo replied, I did it in the army. What is the third floor tower attack game? Tang Mo explained in detail the fire and animals he saw on the Spirit Prairie, as well as the Truth Clock game. Since they were teammates, Tang Mo didn't conceal the props he received. The function of the infinite non-probability pocket watch made Fu Wenduo frown. Xiao Fu was also very confused but he didn't ask anything. Tang Mo took out the golden candy and Fu Wenduo and Fu Wen's hung observed it. The pair unanimously agreed that they had never seen a similar candy and weren't sure if there was a black tower monster who liked to eat it. The first batch of beef was roasted well and Fu Wenduo directly handed it to Tang Mo. Tang Mo took the beef skewer and handed it to Fu Wen's hung. Fu Wenduo raised an eyebrow while Fu Wen's hung swallowed his saliva and took a bite of the beef. Thank you brother Tang. Tang Mo laughed. You should thank your brother. Xiao Fu cried out, thank you brother. The two of them laughed together. Fu Wenduo saw his brother and Tang Mo's laughing appearances and his lips curved to show an imperceptible smile. The firewood had been cut by Fu Wenduo and Fu Wen's hung in the morning. The trees around the Fu family home were old trees over 100 years old. The two people didn't blink when they cut it and quickly prepared the materials. Wood burned at a temperature that wasn't as high as charcoal, meaning the meat was roasted slowly. The second skewer of beef was done and Fu Wenduo handed it to Tang Mo. Tang Mo reached out to hold it, only for Fu Wenduo to suddenly grab his hand. Tang Mo looked at him with consternation. The air seemed to freeze. A cold wind blew from the door, rustling the leaves in the yard. Fu Wen's hung had his head buried to eat the meat while Tang Mo was sitting on a small wooden stool. Fu Wenduo held his left hand and the two people quietly looked at each other. Time seemed to pas.s slowly but in fact, only 2 seconds had pas.said. Fu Wenduo looked up from eating beef and found the strange situation between his brother and Tang Mo. He stared in horror at the hands of the two men. You, bang. Tang Mo suddenly pulled out a silver gun from his pocket and handed it to Fu Wenduo. Fu Wenduo took the gun and didn't need to aim as he shot an old jujube tree outside the courtyard. The bullet roared and the moment the gunshot rang out, 2 black shadows flashed past the jujube tree. At the same time, another figure emerged from the rear of the yard. Tang Mo's expression instantly became cold. Fu Wenduo and Fu Wen's hung had been here for so long without being discovered. Now these people showed up as soon as Tang Mo arrived. It was clear that these people were following him. Only one group in Beijing knew his coordinates and could track him. Tang Mo turned to look at Fu Wenduo. Tian Xian. Fu Wenduo also guessed the ties of the people and moved sideways to avoid a flying knife. The figure in the rear who threw the knife was coming closer and closer. Tang Mo finally saw the person's appearance. This face made countless fans scream before the earth went online, but now there was no expression on Lian Yuzheng's beautiful face. She ruthlessly moved through the darkness, cold silver in her hand as she came straight towards Tang Mo. Lian Yuzheng kicked over the barbecue rack towards Fu Wenduo. She wanted to take this opportunity to attack Tang Mo. Fu Wenduo fired again and precisely hit her knife, causing the direction of her attack to change. Tang Mo took advantage of this to bring out his small parasol. Fu Wenduo used the gun to block Lian Yuzheng's position while Tang Mo attacked with the small parasol. The two people's tacit understanding controlled Lian Yuzheng's movements in seconds. The tip of the small parasol was just about to pierce Lian Yuzheng's abdomen when the earth made a humming sound. The earth seemed to be whispering in a low voice, the dreary sound making Tang Mo feel startled. He realized what it might be and turned to look at Fu Wenduo. Tang Mo had just opened his mouth to speak when the horror of gravity arrived on schedule. Boom! Tang Mo, Fu Wenduo, Fu Wen's hung, even Lian Yuzheng was pulled by this powerful gravity and hit the ground hard. Gravity suppression. The author has something to say. Tang, she, kicked, over, barbecue rack. I, didn't eat, piece of meat. Cold face Lian Yuzheng, I don't eat meat then you can't eat meat. Added a KO5 for the people asking for an alternative to Patreon. You can also join my Discord channel to chat with fellow readers about the novels.